Hi, welcome to Paul's Movie Collections. Now today we're going to talk about the history of Hollywood's major movie studios. Now, all moviegoers are familiar with the names of the big Hollywood studios that release blockbusters, but few probably realize that each one has a long history in show business. In fact, some are over a century old and the others are quickly reaching that milestone. Each major studios has had an illustrious history in entertainment, developing some of the most beloved movies and movie franchises over the past decades. While some major studios have gone defunct, such as RKO, and others are no longer the powerhouse that they once used to be, there remain 6 major Hollywood studios that continues to release the vast majority of movies at a local multiplex. Here is a basic primer on the 6 studios whose movies continues to pack audience into theaters. Universal Pictures, founded in 1912. Universal is the oldest American film studio. In fact, the original president of Universal, Carl Laemmle, was the first movie executive to give actors on-screen credit, which eventually led to popular performers becoming box office draws. Beginning in the 1920s and continuing through the 1930s and the early 1940s, Universal had great success with its monster films, with movies like Dracula 1931, Frankenstein 1931, The Mummy 1932, and The Wolfman 1941. The studio's fortunes dipped in the following decades, though it had several hits with stars like Abbott and Costello, James Stewart, and Lana Turner. Alfred Hitchcock also spent the last decade and a half of his career making films for Universal. Later, the studio had massive success with 3 Steven Spielberg movies: 1975's Jaws, 1982's E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and 1993's Jurassic Park. Today, Universal Studios is almost as well known for its theme park as it is for movies. Key franchises include the Universal Monsters, Jurassic Park, Fast and the Furious, and Jason Bourne. Paramount Pictures, founded 1912. Highest grossing film, Titanic, 1997. Paramount was founded as a famous players film company in 1912. Early Paramount film featured some of the industry's earliest stars, including Mary Pickford, Rudolph Valentino, Douglas Fairbanks, and Gloria Swanson. It is also the studio that released the very first winner of the Academy Award for the Best Picture, which is Wings. Paramount maintained its reputation as a star studio throughout the 1930s, 40s and 50s, featuring legends like the Marx Brothers, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, and Marlene Dietrich in his films. However, the landmark 1948 Supreme Court decision that forced studios to sell the extremely successful theater chains hurt Paramount significantly, and the studio's fortunes faced a deep decline. Paramount eventually rebounded on the strength of critical and commercial hits like The Godfather 1972, Saturday Night Fever 1977, Grease 1978, Top Gun 1986, Ghost 1990, and the Indiana Jones and Star Trek series. Other key franchises include Transformers, Iron Man first two films, Mission Impossible, Friday the 13th first 8 films, and Beverly Hills Cop. Walt Disney Pictures, founded 1923. Highest grossing film, Star Wars The Force Awakens, 2015. Walt Disney Pictures began its life as a Disney Brothers cartoon studio and was renamed after the massive success of Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse cartoon character allowed the company to expand beyond traditional cartoon shorts. The studio began releasing films with live-action sequences in the 40s, and Disney's first all-live-action film was 1950's Treasure Island. Of course, Disney's media empire has grown to include its famous theme parks, with attractions based on the studio's movies. Though mainly known for family films, in the 1980s and 1990s, Disney released more mature films under its Touchstone Pictures and Miramax banners. In recent years, Disney has acquired Pixar in 2006, Marvel Studios in 2009, and Lucasfilm in 2012, which brought extremely successful franchises underneath its umbrella. In addition to its widely loved animated classics and live-action remakes of those movies, Disney's key franchises include Star Wars since 2015, the Marvel Cinematic Universe since 2012, and Pirates of the Caribbean. Warner Brothers Pictures, founded 1923. Highest grossing film, The Dark Knight, 2008. Warner Brothers was founded by 4 brothers, Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack Warner. The studio's first big star was actually Rin Tin Tin, a German shepherd that starred in a series of adventurous movies. Shortly afterwards, Warner became the first studio to adopt sound films, starting with films like Don Juan, 1926, The Jazz Singer, 1927, and Lights of New York, 1928. In the 1930s, Warner Brothers had great success with gangster films such as Little Caesar, 1931, and The Public Enemy, 1931. The studio released one of his best-loved films, Casablanca, in 1942. Warner Brothers worked with many notable names in the 1940s and 50s, including Alfred Hitchcock, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, James Dean, and John Wayne. In the 70s and 80s, powerhouse filmmakers like Clint Eastwood and Stanley Kubrick frequently worked with the studio. The studio is also known for its stable of animated characters including Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig, as well as its ownership of DC Comics and its vast catalog of superhero characters. Key franchises include Batman, Superman, the DC Universe, Harry Potter, The Hobbit, The Matrix, Dirty Harry, and Lethal Weapon. Columbia Pictures, founded 1924. Highest grossing film, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, 2017. Columbia Pictures was born from a very small studio named Cohn Bryant Cohn, or CBC, which is known for producing very low-budget shorts. The newly branded Columbia increased its fortunes when Frank Capra directed a series of hits for the studios, including It Happened One Night, 1934, You Can't Take It With You, 1938, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939. Columbia also succeeded with comedy shorts, releasing films starring the Three Stooges and Buster Keaton. That success led to more prestige films in later decades, such as From Here to Eternity, 1953, The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957, and A Man for All Seasons, 1966. Nonetheless, the studio nearly went bankrupt in the 1970s. Columbia saw renewed success in the 1980s with films like Gandhi, 1982, Tootsie, 1982, The Big Chill, 1983, and Ghostbusters, 1984. After being owned by several companies, including Coca-Cola, Columbia has been owned by Sony since 1989. The key franchises include Spider-Man, Men in Black, The Karate Kid, and Ghostbusters. Twentieth Century Fox, founded 1935. Highest grossing film, Avatar, 2009. 20th Century Fox was created in 1935 when Fox Film Corporation, founded in 1915, merged with 20th Century Pictures, founded in 1933. Early stars for the merged studio included Betty Grable, Henry Fonda, Tyrone Power, and Shirley Temple. The studio's success continued in the 50s with a series of very successful musicals, which includes Carousel, 1956, The King and I, 1956, South Pacific, 1958, and my favorite, The Sound of Music, 1965. Fox also pioneered widescreen cinema by developing the CinemaScope process first seen in 1953's The Rope. Despite the success of CinemaScope and new stars like Marilyn Monroe, the incredibly expensive historical epic Cleopatra, 1963, starring Elizabethtaylor and Richard Burton, nearly bankrupted the studio. After the success of The Sound of Music, sci-fi films like Fantastic Voyage, 1966, and Planet of the Apes, 1968, became hits for the studio, but paled in comparison to the massive success of Star Wars, 1977. Key franchises in the history of 20th Century Fox include the first 6 Star Wars movies, the X-Men films, Home Alone, Die Hard, and Planet of the Apes. Hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to my channel if you like it.